Paradox, the Kabbalistic Path of Expanding Consciousness, Part 11, The Quagmire of Moral Relativism, Part 1 of 2. Moral Relativism. It is impossible to judge any person's action as right or wrong, because from their moral framework, their action is justified. What makes our perspective more legitimate than theirs? Consequently, everyone is equally right or equally wrong, and we must refrain from imposing our values upon them. Morality is in the eyes of the beholder. Every action can be justified. Moral relativism is a half-truth, and a dangerous one at that. If not counterbalanced by an equal dose of rigid moral conviction, it allows evil to proliferate unchecked. As Albert Einstein notes, the world is a dangerous place, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. So how do I make a habit of promoting paradox without getting trapped in the quagmire of moral relativism? I'm speaking here about paradoxes in the category of 2B, where I can't see even a sliver of truth in the other side, and yet I'm supposed to find something redeeming about it? Doesn't that justify its corruption? It's like allowing Syria to sit on the Human Rights Council while it employs weapons of mass destruction against its own civilians. After all, doesn't everyone have skeletons in their closet? And who are you to say what's best for the Syrian people? It's all relative. To include evil in the rubric of these and these dignifies the unpardonable by placing it on equal footing with good. As if Abraham Lincoln, who launched the Civil War to eradicate slavery, which killed 2.5% of American citizens at that time, as if he shares a continuum with Adolf Hitler, commander of the Third Reich, who sought to galvanize a master race that would enslave the world, and in the process perpetrated genocide on a massive scale and caused the death of 2.5% of world citizens at that time. It makes it look like they are just different points in a continuum, instead of different universes altogether. Truth and lie are not 2 points on a continuum. They are the difference between solid ground and no ground, between reality and hype. A lie is a lie even when everyone believes it. A truth is a truth even when no one believes it. The answer is that holding the paradox does not require us to defend criminals, justify immorality, or endorse ignorance. Evil is evil, and we are allowed, even obliged, to label it as such and to seek its demise. We don't have to wear blinders or pretend that we agree with something that we don't. The problem is not with what we do see. The problem is that there are other paradoxical elements that we have overlooked or perhaps even denied. The task is to bring more of the picture into focus by widening or deepening our visual field. Unless we are struggling with paradox, we are dealing with half-truths, which are also always half-lies. This lesson is derived from a fascinating feature of Jewish law. When a person is accused of a capital offense, he is tried before a high court of 23 judges. And yet, if all 23 vote to convict, if their guilty verdict is unanimous, then, strangely, the defendant is set free. Conversely, if at least one judge out of those 23 votes not guilty, then the majority rules, the man is blameworthy, and the death penalty applies. What a strange law! If the facts of a case are so obvious that none of the judges find any compelling cause for acquittal, instead of administering the death penalty with a clear conscience, the rabbis drop all charges and set the defendant free. The Torah is teaching that if a court has not identified one mitigating factor, one argument for acquittal, they do not have the full picture. Nothing in our post-Edenic world is completely black and white, especially the murky depths of a human psyche battling with wayward urges that may or may not be under its control. The whole truth of the defendant's guilt must include a case for his innocence, which, at the very least, could be an admission of the dubious nature of guilt altogether. One by one, the 23 judges would state their verdict. And so it became the task of the last judge, the most senior of the panel, to vote for acquittal and defend that position if all of his colleagues ruled to convict. This is not moral relativism, but it does assert the complexity of truth. Contrary to common sense, the final rabbi's argument for innocence allows the moral judgment, i.e. the guilty verdict, to stand. The Torah is clear. Without that dissenting perspective, the judges do not have the full picture, and in that case, they have no right to convict. By offering an argument for innocence, We acknowledge the limits of certainty and the complexities of truth. Yet despite our fallibility, the Torah still insists that we judge behavior and prosecute crime according to its ethical code. In summary, the full truth of any matter must be stated as paradox. It must include one's own perspective and a plausible argument to the contrary. If you have not stepped out of your eye center to see things from the other side, then you are caught in a half-truth, which is technically a lie. But on the other hand, if you abandon your moral compass and grant equal validity to all behaviors, you become an allower of evil and undermine the very purpose of our human species, which is to discern between good and evil and choose good.